Hello everyone, welcome back to the bench. Firstly, it has to be said that I hope this video finds each and every one of you in fine fettle, and the same is towards your loved ones as well in this not pleasant time. I find myself at home on leave, the sun's out and we're on a lockdown. Yeah, ironic really, but it is what it is, and that's how it is and what we've got to put up with and get on with. So on that note, this video is a bench update to let you guys know what I've been up to and kind of what I'm planning to do, maybe. We'll see how we get on. Anyway, as we've got this nice new printed box from Italeri for the Land Rover fire truck in 24th scale, what can I say? To be honest with you, when I opened this box and saw what was inside, disappointed is an understatement, to be fair, and let me tell you why, and let's take the top off. Now, it's a rebox of what I believe to be the SD version, however I will stand corrected if I'm wrong. What you get is not an awful lot. You get a clear sprue, two black sprues, a bag of tyres, a sheet of decals. The chassis comes as a separate item, as does the lower half of the body shell as well as the upper half of the body shell. Why they've done them in two halves, I've no idea, but I presume that's the legacy of how it was when it was an esky kit. Now, I don't know if it's me or if I'm being a bit harsh or a bit picky or what, but I do believe Italeri missed a trick here, because if they'd thought about this and went to the effort of making an extra sprue with extra rescue stroke fire extinguishing equipment, you could have built a really good fire truck. But they haven't. All they've given you is what you would have got in the old esky days. The quality is okay. There's a little tiny bit of what I would refer to as shadowing flash, you know, when the moulds come together, and because they're a little bit worn and used and abused, you're getting tiny little bits of flash here and there on the parts. Yeah, okay, fine, it'll only take a couple of seconds to clean up and all the rest of it, but if they cleaned up the mould a little bit and done that extra sprue, it would have made this into a really good kit. And what you have at the moment, yeah, it's a great little Land Rover, I'll give it that, but it's not a good kit, it's not a great kit, it's just it's an okay kit. So I'm not going to build this as what it intended you to build, as a fire tender or a fire truck. I'm going to go slightly differently. I was, and I will show you why when I get this out of the way. Now, here is the lower half of the body shell, and my first initial thoughts were that I was going to go down the route of making this into a 24th scale SAS Pink Panther. Great idea, I thought. I've got 1/35 one upstairs. I've got a really good friend that's really clever at upscaling stuff and printing it out into resin and all the rest of it, and then looked at how much was going to have to go on here and how much work was going to be requested of my friend, I decided no, it was unfair and an unreasonable ask. So that's as far as the ideas of a 24th scale SAS Pink Panther got. Didn't even get off the drawing board. Anyway, so on further Googling and looking at images of this particular style of Land Rover, I happened to find a few photographs of the Land Rovers that we used in Northern Ireland in the 1970s and the early 1980s, which struck a chord with me, and I thought, oh, now there's an idea. You don't really see many of those around, and on further looking and trawling across the web, I've only found one that has ever been done, and that was in 35th scale, which looks really good. And going to use some of that on this, because along with the two other vehicles that I've seen that I've got photographs for, this is going to be not of a particular vehicle. It's a bit of a homage, a mix and match, a little bit from this one, a little bit from that one, and a little sprinkling from something else. And that's the route I'm going to go down. So what am I going to do with this part? Well, this area's got to be filled in, because the spare tyre goes up on the slope on the roof at the front. So this has all got to be filled in and then cut back and smoothed off so that it's a nice smooth bonnet. Now, what am I going to do in here? Well, at the moment we've got some stowage boxes, which I think I might actually keep them where they are, and with a bit of epoxy putty make some seating cushions to go in these areas for the crew to sit on, and then they can use the storage boxes for whatever they need. So that's that. Possibly what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm going to keep the floor as it is, or maybe use some of these and put them on the floor for the wooden slats. I don't know. I need to try and get some photographs of what this bit would actually look like inside. So that's the plan for the lower half. Obviously I've got to go around and put on some extra styrene to make up the armour plating that goes on. So that's the challenge. The other challenge is for this section on both this side and this side is to make up the side skirts, I suppose is one way of putting it, where you've got either some a grate or some, I think most of the sides were a length of rubber that was put down to stop anything rolling under or being kicked under, like a petrol bomb or rocks or whatever. So that's that side. I've still got, and I've got to do one for the rear and also one at the front. So there's a bit of work to be done on the underside. There's work to be done in here. So this is going to be a long-term build. This is not anything that's going to be done like tomorrow. I wish it would, but it's not. So that is the plan at the moment. So that's that part of the kit. I've made a start on sorting the bumper out at the front so that this section is now infilled, because what would have gone there is the support for the water pump that you have at the front of the fire truck. I still need to do quite a bit of work because this is slightly proud here, so I need to cut that back with some sanding. There's a couple of locating holes here that have got to be filled in, and I think what I might do is just put some thin plastic card on the back of here just to fill these in, just so that it makes it look a little bit more solid, I think is a good word, and then work out where I'm going to have the attachments for the front grille, skirt, anti-fouling, or however you want to term it, at the front here. So that's that. Now, I did some work on the seats, and I used some stretch sprue as piping just to break up the plainness of the seat, but these are never going to get seen, unfortunately, because once, as you will see with the roof, I've got the grills over where the windows will be, and when you look in, once it's all closed up together, there's not an awful lot of light getting in there to show up what I've done on these seats. So I've probably wasted a little bit of time, but I learned a few things about scribing on it, so it's not all lost. Now, the reason for the gaffer tape on here is when you hold this up to the light, it's transparent. Albeit you can't see through it, but you can see an awful lot of light bleeding in through this colour. So that's gone on there. If you haven't got any gaffer tape, several coats of black paint will work quite nicely. Now, the rear door has had its armour plate put on, and I've put the grille on over the window. I've made some rivets that I don't necessarily think I'm very happy with, and I might have to go back and redo them because they're flat, they're not sort of domed. So I'm going to have a look, and I'm probably going to end up buying some kind of dye or something. I'm not sure. But the side windows are looking good. The front grille that goes over the windscreen, I've used the windscreen part as a template to create this, which sits very nicely, he says. If he puts it round the right way, it will work. And it does go around that way. It went on in the last video. Right, there you go. So that sits on there, but what I need to do is create some brackets so that it gives the illusion that you can raise it and lower it down, giving a clearer view. And so that's got to be done. The chassis itself, as you can tell with the amount of green filler that's gone in, he's got 1 or 2 sink marks in it. Yeah, it's not it's not the best kit I've seen, but kicking all of the negativity to one side and kicking it as far as you can into touch, this kit does lend itself to be a very good vehicle for creating something else. So you don't necessarily have to do the SAS Pink Panther, you don't have to do the Northern Ireland vehicle that I'm doing. You can, with a little bit of imagination, go a very long way with this. So if you're looking to do some kit bashing and you quite fancy doing a kit bash on a Land Rover, this could be a good kit for you to get, because it doesn't really matter about the rest of what's in the box. So long as you've got the basics, you can go forward. However, and it has to be said, that if you want to do a decent version of a Land Rover, my suggestion is you go out and buy the Revell version, because that is far better than this, believe me. I've had a look because I've got one. And yeah, I would definitely go out and get one of those. So am I going to have any crew in the back? Am I going to have a driver figure? Probably not, because the amount of 24th scale military figures that are around probably won't do what I want them to do. My level of sculpting my own figures is below diabolical. There is no sculpting skill in me whatsoever. So I think it's probably going to have no figures in it whatsoever. However, that could change if I find something that I think might work. So that is where I am for the Italeri fire truck that is now going to be a Northern Ireland patrol Land Rover. So that's that. Moving on, we have the Airfix 72nd scale Tiffy, which is coming along. I haven't done very much on it recently because I've been working on the Land Rover that I didn't think I was going to buy, but I did. Yeah, less said on that the better. This is coming along nicely, although this decal went on really nice. This one gave me a minor heart attack when I realised that I've got to do some surgery on the decal once it had gone in place. So took a very deep breath and went slowly and carefully, and thankfully it all came out very nicely. Still a fair old way to go yet. There's still quite a bit more to do, and I've still got some weathering and make it look a bit dirty and gnarly. So that is the Tiffy. Now we have the Russian Grad that I've been working on. Let's take that off before it flies off. Where are we? We've pretty much done everything. There's a few more greebles that's got to go on. There's some tow hooks, and there's some lights to go on. I've got to do the front lights. I've still got to do the rear lights. Mirrors. There's a spotlight that's got to go on here. So yeah, there's still some odds and sods and fits and farts to do on this, but we are getting there. Now, to get the dusty kind of look that I've got, I've used some of this, the Aqualine Dry Earth from Wilder, and I've got to say, I do like this. It does work really well. Mix it with a little bit of water just to thin it down a little bit, and then slap it all over, leave it for about an hour or so, come back with some fresh tap water or some fresh distilled water, and just go section by section and reactivate it and just move it around so that you catch all of the crevices and the indents and all of the features that are on the vehicle that would normally be areas where dust and dirt would catch, which is what you can do with this. Now, I've also put the doors on, but I'm leaving them as they are, simply because the story for this vehicle, the doors came off. They had to be replaced, and they've been replaced from a vehicle that can't be fixed, so there's a little bit of scavenging from one to get another one back up on the road again. So it's had new doors put on, which I will leave as they are. Now, I don't know whether, let's lift this up so that hopefully you can see. I've got a little bit of rust effect going on in here, but what I've used is the oil brush rust with the not using the brush that comes in the tube. What I've done is I've taken it out and dotted it down on a old scrap bit of cardboard, and then got a cocktail stick or a toothpick depending on where you are, run the edge over a sanding stick just to sharpen the point down, and then put it in the oil, and then just put a very fine dot of oil under each of these rivets, and with a very fine small brush dipped in thinners I've just pulled it down just enough so that you can, there's just enough there to suggest that it's not quite rusty, but it's certainly on the way. We've got some fuel staining going on here, and we've got some more rust effect around here as well, and coming down from the handle as well, but it's very faint, so I don't know if that's going to show up. What I might do is have to do some photos and tag it on at the end of the video for this one. But there is some very fine and very faint rusting effect coming through. Now, the other thing that I've seen photos of is that there's a Russian, well, one photo that I've seen is of a Russian soldier sat on here. Yeah, this is where the fun and games begin. I've got a couple of packs of Russian modern figures, of which, he says, tongue in cheek, I'm going to try and convert them, or one of them, into a figure that can kind of go in here. Now, my conversion skills on figures is not good. In fact, it's awful. So it could end up not happening at all. And as I've said, the thought of doing a figure from scratch and sculpting it myself, no, it's not going to happen. That you might as well go and have a look at Frankenstein, because that's where mine will end up being. But that's where we are on the lower half of the Grad, so let's move that out of the way. The rocket launcher itself is still fresh paint. I've still got to do an awful lot of weathering on here, chipping and so on, but I can't do anything yet because I've got a couple of decals to go on, and I haven't put them on yet. So this is the next bit, but there's some detail in here that I want to pick out, and I want to pick out the detail of the adjustment wheels on here as well. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, there's just a bit too much detail in there to not do anything with. So that's pretty much where I am now, is the next bit that I'm going to be moving on to. Now, what else have we got? Ah, yes. Yeah. For all those that know, I've been building one of these. Yeah, big bird, big helicopter, a big Huey, a 24th scale Revell Huey. And to be fair, I have absolutely loved every minute of putting this together. I've taken the saw to it, I've done some scratch building inside, I've cut one of the doors out that opens up slightly, I've cut this out, that will be a door eventually when I put it back on, which is the next thing to be done on here. At this end I've got the stabiliser wing, and there's a couple of grab handles that's got to go on this side to bring it up so that it's the same. Then I've got the side sliding doors to go on mask up all of the windows, and then think about how am I going to get the primer on here, and how am I going to get the base coat on, and all the rest of it, because this is not going in my spray booth. It's just simply just too big. So I'm going to have to work out what I'm going to do. But I have to confess, I am dragging my heels on this. Not for any bad reason, not for anything like that. It's just the fact that I am thoroughly enjoying this build. I don't really know what else I can say. That the people that diss this kit, I think they really need to have another look at it, because if you've got the imagination and you've got the willingness to go at this and do your own thing, you will then have a really good time, and a really interesting build will come out of it that you will enjoy. So my advice is, don't listen to those that say, oh, it's a bad kit because it doesn't fit and it's this, it's that. Believe me, I've got this far and I've not had any fit issues. Everything so far on this kit has fitted exactly where it says it's supposed to fit. So anyone out there that says anything different, and if you've not built one, I suggest you go and get one if you can. And for those of you that really fancy having a go at one of these, yeah, definitely go and get one if you can. I know they're a little bit like hen's teeth and shark's gums and all the rest of it, but if you can get one, do so. It is a lovely little kit and it really does fit really well. So that's where we are on the Huey. What else have I been up to? Oh yes, I have been doing some painting technique practice and weathering practice and things like that. Now what I've done is because I'm fortunate and I've got a 3D printer upstairs, I can print these skips or Grundons or dumpsters or whatever you want to call them really. These are in 35th scale and it takes about 3 hours to print two off. Great fun for doing weathering techniques on. Once you've gone round and you've filled in all the grooves, because as it prints line by line, it's not, although it feels smooth, but as you can tell when I do that, you can hear where all the lines are. So to get round that, what I do is I get some Vallejo plastic putty, mix it with some water and brush it on, and keep going round a few times to fill up the grooves. I'll then give it a sand so that it's nice and smooth, maybe go over any areas that are not particularly brilliant, and then use it as a weathering paint mule tester thing. And as you can see, I've given this a fair old bashing. Not really sure what I was trying to achieve here, apart from trying to paint straight lines. Yeah, that didn't work very well. What has worked well here is doing some rust streaks, some streaking grime, some chipping, and generally gnarling it up and messing around. Here it's kind of not come out as I hoped. The wilder dry earth mixed with some track pigment to change the colour, that's worked fine. I'm happy with that. I've put some hairspray on here, and then because I bought some of the MIG washable paints, tried those and not had a very good result. However, I don't necessarily think it's down to the paint. I think it's down to the painter, i.e. me, because they've kind of worked and they've kind of not worked. I'm still trying to find my feet and work out how I can use them. However, what I have been using and what I'm very impressed with is the VMS Smart Chipping Paint, which is what I've got going on around here, because this now gives it the impression that this has been dropped on a lump of mud or a very muddy ground, and it's all splashed up and coated the bottom edge. So that's worked really nice. I haven't done anything with these blobs yet because I don't really know what I want to do with them yet, but on a whole, most of what I've done on here, apart from that, I really don't quite know what I was trying to do there, but the rest of it, it's kind of worked. It's worked here and it's worked on here, but this is a bit kind of, yeah, I think we're out to lunch on this one at the moment. So we'll have to come back and have a play around with it. And the other one that I've been playing around with is this one. And in order to achieve what I've managed to come up with here is I've put some rust coloured pigments on, and then with some Umbral enamel thinners gone over it and made them all wet. I kind of mixed it up a little bit, left it to dry, then got some masking fluid and just dotted it all over the place, and then sprayed over with the yellow. Allowed everything to dry and then picked off the masking fluid, which has left me with gaping holes in the paint, and then used some more of the Umbral enamel thinners to reactivate the pigment underneath so that I can get all of these rusty streaks going on, which does give it the really old, gnarly, rotten skip that you sometimes find here and there. I've tried some pigment along here to try and represent some, I don't know, algae or something trying to grow in that area. Maybe it's kind of come off and it's kind of not come off. Haven't really done anything particularly much with this. Now, I don't know what I did wrong on this side, but I tried to do exactly the same on the other side on here, but instead of I can't remember how I did this now. No, on this side I didn't do the first mix up of the enamel thinners. I left it as just a pigment laying on the side, and then I just went over it with a pipette full of thinner to just activate the pigment so that it would settle down a little bit. Left it to dry and then did the yellow over the top. Sorry, I got that one wrong. This one I put the pigment on and then went over it with the thinners again, and then tried to use the masking fluid, but I don't think I gave this time to dry off properly. And then when I've gone over it again with the yellow paint and then tried to take everything and just take the small amounts of masking fluid off, everything has just pulled off. So I think I've probably had some sort of reaction with this against the paint, but it's no bad thing because it does look all rusty and old and battered. Now I don't know if you can see, but I've tried to use some of the AK weathering pencils to see how I get on, and they've kind of worked and they've kind of not worked. I still need to do a bit more practicing with that, and I've got something going on down here. I can't remember what I did down here. But yeah, it's just having some fun and games of messing around. Now what I've tried to suggest here is a pot of paint has been thrown in or lobbed in, and it's bounced off the side wall, and as it's done so, what little contents is left inside the paint pot has gone splat against the side. So I'm kind of hoping that that kind of works that way. I tried something similar on this side, and it kind of, yeah, it looks more like paint blobs than it does paint splats. So yeah, so having fun and games with those. What I'm going to do on this one, I've no idea. I think I might do some more practicing with the VMS on one side and the MIG washables on the other, and see where we go. So when I know more, I'll let you know. But it's all fun and games. It's all a bit of learning and trying to work out what you want to do. Now, I think I am pretty much up to date, and you know as much as I do as to what's going on this bench now. So it remains for me to say thank you very much for watching. If you haven't done so, please subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell so you get the notifications for when I upload more content. It remains for me to say please stay safe, stay inside. I know it's nice and the sun's out and all the rest of it, but keep yourself safe, stay indoors, and I will catch you in the next one.